electrostatics. Now we will learn about what is resolution of forces, which you have already studied at your school level, I assume. What is resolution of forces? You all know. Suppose this is my P. હવે વચ્ચે વાતો નહીં. Are you settled? છે કે હા છે કોઈ વાત હજી? Okay. Suppose this is force P. Where it is? Where it is located? In which plane? Plane of board, right? આ force છે. અત્યારે એની direction કઈ છે? If I ask you that what is the angle theta, what would you answer? No angle is half correct answer. 0. Okay. 0? I don't think 0 is the correct answer. What is the angle this force is making? Raji? Angle not? બન્યો નથી. તો એનો મતલબ કે આ કોઈ ડાયરેક્શનમાં નથી? તો ખૂણો કેમ નથી બન્યો? Are you getting my question? What is the theta angle for this vector force P? Where should I draw theta? કાલે વિડિયો પર નહીં જોયો. Correct. This is the correct answer. That unless you have a reference, from reference you can show that theta angle. Suppose this is my reference, then the theta is 90 degree. Suppose I change my reference, then this becomes theta. Suppose I change my reference, then theta becomes સમજાય છે તમને? It means that force is a vector. That is true. It will have some magnitude, 100 Newton. That is also true. But the angle, I'm talking about a single force. I'm not talking about two forces. If there are two forces, they will certainly have an angle between them, which doesn't need any reference. But for a single force, reference is required to identify the angle, because this force has different angles with reference to different references. True, right? It means that now suppose we have this reference. This force has P magnitude, which is for example 100 Newton, and it has some theta angle which this force is making with this reference line or reference plane. Now do you know that we can resolve this force here? Okay, बढ़िया है, सब पढ़े हैं, शायद आपको वर्ड रिजोल्व नहीं पता है. पता है रिजोल्यूशन? Okay, let us first write down. आपको पता है, जैसे लिखेंगे तो पता चलेगा. Write down the statement. The algebraic sum of the resolved parts. Okay, wait. Sorry. This is different. Remember your school. Don't write now. Wait. So if I take. Okay. મારું કામ છે. how to okay तो यहाँ लिखा था હું આને ખેંચું છું થોડો રિલેક્સ રહેજે ટાઈટ ના રહે હું આને પુલ આપું છું 100 ન્યૂટન ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ તો કઈ ડાયરેક્શનમાં આગળ આવે છે જે ડાયરેક્શનનો પુલ છે ઓકે આમ રાખજે પગ ત્યાં ને ત્યાં પગ નથી પહેરવાનો સીધો થઈ જાય ઓકે હું એને પુલ આપું છું આવે છે ફોર્સ ડાયરેક્શનમાં આગળ હા કે ના ઓકે હવે મારે એને एक्चुअल फोर्स तो आज है હવે આગળ આવજે બે ડગલા ખેંચું ત્યારે આવ he moved in this direction suppose બે ડગલા આટલું ડિસ્ટન્સ મૂવ થયો now I want to know કે suppose આના બદલે મેને બે ફોર્સ આપ્યા હોત ક્યાં ગયો પેલો હિન્દી વાળો પાછો હું ગુજરાતીમાં આ નહીં હા जम्मू अगर मैंने ये एक फोर्स देने के बजाय इसको दो फोर्स दिए होते हैं तो ये सेम इफेक्ट जनरेट हो सकती थी आंसर है यस क्योंकि कल हमने देखा कि दो फोर्स जो अलग अलग लग रहे हैं उसका रिजल्टेंट क्या है कि वो सेम इफेक्ट प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है इसका उल्टा भी वैलिड ही है अगर एक फोर्स जो कर रहा है वही चीज दो फोर्स भी कर सकता है नाउ अगेन फोर्स इज वेक्टर इट मींस दैट which two forces I would apply that will create the same effect as this. So I want him to move in this direction. So what force first I will give? Some force in this direction. So moving एक डगलू आम આવી ગયો and second force I will give in શું કામ ફર્યા કરે છે has the final effect that he has moved from this point to this point. Earlier he was moving in this direction, single force. And when I am applying two forces, what he is doing? First he is moving from here to here, then he is moving here from here to here. So initial location and final location is same. It means that what this one force was doing, same thing has been done by these two forces. It means that if I have one force, I can divide that or I can dissect that force, single force, into two components which will have same effect, right? So this is called resolution of forces. So you are resolving that single force into two components of your chosen direction. It is like splitting. Let's see. समझायो? What is resolution? It means that now we have this force, single force only, which is making this point to move in this direction. Now we want to resolve this force into two components. So let us take our reference, one reference as this direction. Let us call it, we always call it horizontal as x. And another reference, let us take this and call it as it. It means that this force, which is creating some effect to this point to move in this direction, can be presented such that one force which will tend to move this point in this direction and some another force in this direction which will tend to move this point in this direction, and totally the point will have same effect. I hope you are getting it, right? So how to find that force? This actual force is acting in this direction, but these two imaginary forces which are having same effect is called, this process is called resolution of force. So you are resolving this P force into two components, right? So this is your first component, this is your second component. So what this white force is doing, same work, same effect is produced by these two. So either on this point you can apply these two forces or you can apply this force. It is mathematically, conceptually same. તમે એક છોકરાને કીધું કે ગુલાબ જાંબુ લેવા જા, એક છોકરાને કીધું કે સેવ ખમણી લેવા જા, તો આવવાનું છે બંને વસ્તુ. અને કોઈ એક જ જણને કીધું કે ગુલાબ જાંબુ ને સેવ ખમણી બંને લેતા આવો, તો આવવાનું જ છે. તો પેલું કામ તમે બે જણમાં સ્પ્લિટ કરી દીધું, પેલું કામ એક જ જણને આપ્યું, થવાનું છે સરખું જ, ગુલાબ જાંબુ અને સેવ ખમણી જ આવવાના છે, right? So this same thing, the work which is done by this single force has been divided into two forces. કેમ આવું કરીએ છીએ પછી કહું છું. આપણે જપા શું કામ કરવાની, આપણને ખબર જ છે ને, પી એંગલ થીટા એંગલ, શું જરૂર છે? That I will explain in few minutes. First understand that this force has been splitted into two components, right? We know the value of this force 100 Newton. We don't know the value of this force and this force, right? We don't know that value. So trigonometry helps, because this is a triangle. This is one side of a triangle, this is another side of a triangle, this is third side of a triangle. Knowing trigonometry, we know that if this angle is theta, if this magnitude is p, then this magnitude is p cos theta, and this magnitude is, to not get ever confused in cos theta and sin theta, the simplest tool to remember is that the actual force is making theta angle with whichever reference plane, that component will become cos. This you know. ભણ્યા છો સ્કૂલમાં આવું બધું? એટલી હમણાં તો હા પણ ના ભણે, ઘરે જઈને યાદ કરજે. ભણ્યા જ છો, મને ખબર છે. આ તો સિમ્પલ ટ્રિગોનોમેટ્રી તમે ભણ્યા છો, નથી ભણ્યા? સપોઝ આ એક ટ્રાયેંગલ છે, આ ટ્રાયેંગલ છે, આની વેલ્યુ છે 25, એંગલ આપેલો છે 30 ડિગ્રી. તો તમને આ સાઈડ અને આ સાઈડની વેલ્યુ નથી શોધતા આવડતું? આવડે છે ને? એ જ છે આ એજ છે. This is nothing but trigonometry. So you know this value which is p, you know the theta angle, so this component becomes p cos theta, this component opposite to this will become p sin theta. If I would have given theta here, then this would have become cos theta and the opposite would be sin theta. Clear? આમાં ડાઉટ છે કે? એકવાર વિચારો. તમે ના પાડો છો ને હું I'll continue the class and then later you ask the doubts, you get the questions. There's nothing wrong, but just recall your class in schools, any concept, any trigonometrical concept which you don't remember right now. cos ને sin તો ખબર જ છે ને, એમાં તો નથી પૂછ્યા. બીજા કયા કયા છે ફંક્શન? cos sin પછી 6 છે ને ટોટલ, એ બધા ખબર છે ને? sec એટલે શું? 1/cos, cosec is 1/sin, tan અને 1/tan is cot. બધું યાદ છે ને? કારણ કે મને બહુ વર્ષો થઈ ગયા સ્કૂલ છોડે, તમને રિસન્ટ છોડી છે, તો છોડી નથી દીધી ને? છોડવું ને છોડી દેવુંમાં બહુ ફરક છે. સ્કૂલ છોડી દીધી અને સ્કૂલ છોડી. Okay, so why this is required? Why this is required? As I have mentioned earlier, there would be hardly a point where only two forces are acting. Suppose some part of a machine or some part of a building structure, there will be hardly a point at which you can only say that only two forces are acting. When only two forces are acting, it is very easy to calculate R, which is resultant, law of parallelogram, law of triangle. But what if more than two forces are acting? Suppose this is my point of concern. One force is acting this direction. Some force is acting this direction. Another force is acting like this. Some other force is acting this direction. So this point is subjected to, this is a hero, जिसको 5 गुंडे मार रहे हैं. एक इस तरफ मार रहा है, दूसरा इस तरफ मार रहा है, तीसरा, चौथा, पांचवा, तो उसके ऊपर क्या इफेक्ट होगा? वो तो हीरो है, ऐसा करके निकल जाएगा, लेकिन मटेरियल में ये पॉइंट ऐसा करके नहीं निकल सकता. इट हैज टू गो थ्रू दैट इफेक्ट. इट मींस दैट दिस P1 is trying to this pull this point in this direction. ठीक, ध्यान नहीं है? अच्छा, if you feel that I am going little slow, then also tell me, so I'll go fast. मैं आप लोगों के एक्सप्रेशन देख के अपनी पेस तय करता हूं. मैं जो भी यहाँ पे बोलता हूँ, इफ आई कैन गेट कि आप लोग तुरंत समझ रहे हैं, तो मैं फास्ट जाऊंगा. अगर मुझे लगेगा कि नहीं, कुछ कंफ्यूजन है, एक्सक्लेमेशन मार्क्स हैं फेसिस पे, तो मैं स्लो जाऊंगा. तो माई स्पीड डिपेंड्स ऑन योर रिस्पॉन्स. समझे? ओके. P1 को, ये पॉइंट को इधर ले जाना है, तो P2 आएगा. तू क्यों इधर ले जा रहा है? मैं इधर ले जाऊंगा. P3 आएगा, नहीं मुझे मेरी तरफ लेके जाना है. P4 आएगा, नहीं मुझे इस तरफ डायरेक्शन में धक्का मारना है. अगेन P5 आएगा, वो बोलेगा नहीं मैं इस तरफ ले जाऊंगा. तो फाइनली पॉइंट जाएगा कहां पे? वो हमें ढूंढना है. वो मिलेगा रिजल्टेंट से, क्योंकि ये पांचों का एक रिजल्टेंट होगा जो डायरेक्शन में ये पॉइंट मूव करेगा. क्लियर? तो इसका रिजल्टेंट कैसे ढूंढे? ना तो लॉ ऑफ पैरेललोग्राम काम आएगा, ना तो लॉ ऑफ ट्रायंगल काम आएगा. उसके लिए ग्राफिकल मेथड में एक लॉ है विच इज कॉल्ड लॉ ऑफ पॉलीगॉन, जो हम लैब में पढ़ेंगे. लॉ ऑफ पॉलीगॉन, दैट इज नॉट एनालिटिकल मेथड. तो एनालिटिकल मेथड क्या है? विच इज, it means that you choose two reference planes, which is most commonly x and y. ढूंढ सकते हैं. It's very simple. For P1, now you can see these angles also. θ1, θ2, ये तो 90 है. θ4, θ5, सपोज ये थीटा दिए हैं. दिस इज θ1, 2, θ3. राइट? सो व्हाट यू कैन डू इज, तो ये डायरेक्शन में आएगा. P2 cos थीटा ये डायरेक्शन में आएगा. P3 यही डायरेक्शन में रहेगा, क्योंकि वो 90 डिग्री ऑलरेडी है. cos 90 0 हो जाएगा, आई मीन 1 हो जाएगा. P3 विल रिमेन P3. सो P3 का cos में कंपोनेंट 0 रहेगा, sin 90 1 हो जाएगा, तो sin में रहेगा P3 एज इट इज. P4 उसका cos कंपोनेंट कुछ आएगा. इट मींस दैट in this your x axis you will have a P1, then you will have P2, because P2 is in this direction, right? P2, you will not have P3. Then again you will have P4 depending on the magnitude, and P5. It means that in horizontal direction this point will be moved by actually P1 cos theta, cos theta, cos theta, cos components, right? It means that in x direction total pull or push to this point is algebraic sum of all these cos components. Simple. Similarly, you will have sin thetas. So in y direction this point has P1 sin theta, P2 sin theta, P3, P4 sin theta, P5 sin theta, right? So again, algebraic sum of all those sine components will be something, right? Let us call that component is final sine component, उसको बोलते हैं, हाँ, तो इसका मतलब है कि ये पूरी चीज हमने क्या रिजोल्व कर दिया, ये अगर एक्स वाई है तो पूरी चीज हमने ऐसी रिजोल्व कर दी, फाइनल कॉस कंपोनेंट, फाइनल साइन कंपोनेंट, जिधर भी आएगा, this arrows depends on the magnitude and direction of the forces, right? This can come here also, this can come here also, but it is vertical, so in y axis and x axis. So these are the two final forces which are generating same effect on this point, right? And now for us it is very easy because we have resolved all these five forces into two forces. Now we know how to resolve two forces. Law of parallelogram. And more simpler is, here angle is 90 degree, so cos component will, so in equation of parallelogram, r square is equal to p square plus q square, no t 2pq cos theta, right? So directly you can calculate your final r, which will make this angle, it will be tan inverse sine component upon cos component, this component upon and this component. So this is the importance of doing resolution of forces, because in practical you are dealing with so many forces acting at various angles, various directions. This is coplanar concurrent force system. These forces are in one plane and they are concurrent, so their line of action is coinciding at some point, right? So to calculate resultant of this force system, resolution of forces is required. So first we are converting these 5 forces, 10 forces, 15 forces into two forces. One force is x direction, another is in y direction. And once we have two forces, then again it is very easy to calculate R. Any questions? कोई तो क्वेश्चन पूछो, મને भी થાય કે મેં એવું ભણાવ્યું કે તમને ડાઉટ ઉભા થયા. कौन से फोर्स को? ये वाला? चलो मैं इसके नाम दे देता हूं तो यू डोंट गेट कंफ्यूजिंग साइन एंड कॉस. तो ये जो था पूरा सिस्टम ऑफ फोर्स, उसको हमने कन्वर्ट कर दिया टू फोर्सेस में. दिस विल बी कॉल्ड सपोज F1 x component, or let us use the nomenclature which is used by summation of h. So all the forces in horizontal direction or x direction, summation of x or summation of x, whatever you can use it. And so this is summation of x and this is suppose summation of y, right? So you have converted these 5 forces into these two final forces which is having angle between them 90 degree. So what is the equation of resultant? R is underscore, now we know, summation x square plus summation y square plus 2 summation x summation y cos theta. Cos theta is 90, so this component will be 0, implies r square equals to summation of x square plus So you have this value, you have this value, put this in, you will get value of R, which is the magnitude of R. And what is the angle? Suppose this is R. So the value of R is calculated using this equation. And what is the value of alpha? So alpha will be what? Tan inverse this upon this. Tan inverse summation of y. So direction of resultant is this and resultant is this. So finally you have one force with one direction that will create same effect as these five forces. Okay, now I'll ask you a question. Why this thing is required? Because suppose this is the point and these five forces are acting on that point, so that five forces are already going to create the effect. So why to calculate same effect and to understand which is the total single force and single direction? What is the requirement? When the effect is same, the final output is same, why to just go through this mathematical procedure? We are already going to know what is going to happen here. Are you getting my question? પેલા હીરોને પાંચ ગુંડા મારે ત્યારે આપણે જોઈ જ લેવાના છે કે ઓકે ફાઇનલી હીરો કઈ બાજુ પડે છે. તો પછી ત્યારે પેલા લોકોને પોઝ કરી એ એક્ટિંગ નો સીન પોઝ કરીને કેલ્ક્યુલેટ કરવાની શું જરૂર? આ મારો ક્વેશ્ચન છે. समझ में आया क्वेश्चन? थोड़ा 50-20% गुजराती आपको चलाना पड़ेगा, उस बहाने आ भी जाएगा. ना नहीं, क्वेश्चन तो खबर पड़ेगी ना. तुम बताओ किसकी? पर्सन की मतलब नहीं, क्वेश्चन समझो पहले. 5 गुंडे एक हीरो को मार रहे हैं एट अ टाइम. सपोज मारा, हीरो ये डायरेक्शन में गिर गया, तो वो जो गिरने वाला है वो तो वही डायरेक्शन में गिरेगा, वही एंगल से गिरने वाला है. तो वो 5 ने मारा कि एक ने मारा वो ढूंढने की क्या जरूरत? ये क्या हो गया, एक ने मारा तो हीरो वही डायरेक्शन में गिर गया, उतना ही आगे जाके गिरा. और ये 5 ने मारा तो भी सेम ही हुआ. तो ये एक ने मारा होता तो कितना मारता, वो ढूंढने की क्या जरूरत है? कौन है? अरे पर रिजल्टेंट ढूंढने की जरूरत ही क्या है जब तुमको ऑलरेडी पता है कि 5 गुंडे ने मारा और इधर गिर रहा है. यू आर वॉचिंग अ फिल्म, रजनीकांत इज ट्राइंग टू फाइट. रजनीकांत ने तो जरूरत ना पड़े 5 नहीं, वो तो फूक से ही उड़ा देगा. लेकिन सपोज सम एवरेज हीरो इज फाइटिंग विथ विलेंस, 5 गुंडे आके मार रहे हैं उसको, तो वो गिर गया. तो आप टीवी पॉज करके कैलकुलेट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपने देखा कि 5 ने मारा इस डायरेक्शन में गिर गया, बिकॉज द इफेक्ट इज सेम. दिस इज नॉट डूइंग एनी एडिशनल वर्क, दिस इज डूइंग सेम वर्क, प्रोड्यूसिंग सेम इफेक्ट एज दिस 5 फोर्सेस वर डूइंग. तो फिर क्या झंझट है ये सारा प्रोसेस करने? अब सवाल समझ में आ रहा है? दिमाग की बत्ती जलाओ. तो ये सब पढ़ने की, ये करने की क्या जरूरत है? क्योंकि फोर्स अपना काम करने ही वाला है. आप ही कैलकुलेट करेंगे तो फोर्स अपना काम थोड़ी रोक देने वाला है. They will do what they are assigned to do. કશો દિમાગને વાપરો, એન્જિનિયરિંગમાં મગજ જ વાપરવાનું છે. અરે આટલામાંથી કોઈનું જ મગજ નથી ચાલતું. ખોટો આન્સર તો મનમાં તમને આન્સર તો આવ્યા જ છે 2-3, તમે ખાલી કહેતા નથી મને. જરાક જો હું બોલું તો નથી સંભળાવું તમને. તમે એટલું તો બોલો મસ્ત અવાજ પહોંચે. Simple. In actual practical problem, will you allow some beam or some car to experience those forces and see બેઠા બેઠા કે ઓ આ તો આવું થઈ ગયું? We cannot afford that. We cannot construct a building and see કે અચ્છા આ રીતે પડ્યું. What nonsense. એવું જ કરવાનું હતું તો એ 500-600 વર્ષ પહેલા થઈ ગયા એક્સપેરિમેન્ટ કે જ્યારે ખબર નથી. સમજાય છે? Before 500, 400, 500, 700 years, where people didn't know how to make houses, what they might have started with some taken long wood, cut into 3 parts. 2 would have been placed vertically, the third would have been placed like that, and some weight મૂક્યું હશે પડી ગયું તો ખબર પડી અરે આ તો આટલું વજન લેતો હવે બીજું લાવ. Because when you don't have any concept, any logic, any mathematics, any science, what is the last solution? Trial and error. એ valid છે 700 વર્ષ પહેલા. અત્યારે you cannot afford that. So in your understanding, when you will be working as engineer and you might get exposed to this kind of problems or a point at which there are multiple forces acting. જેમ કે એક સિમ્પલ ઉદાહરણ તમને આપું 2 forces નું. સિમ્પલ. પનામા કેનાલ ખબર છે? પનામાની નહેર ખબર છે? બહુ જ મોટી છે. ઓકે, આ એ પનામાની નહેર છે. એમાં એક મોટું જહાજ છે. Big ship, very big ship, which has entered Panama. Now, engine of that ship has been stopped. એને આગળ હવે જવાનું છે ટુરિઝમ, બસ એને ખસેડવાનું છે. So there will be another 2 guiding ships, small ships, which will pull that ship. આવું તમે ડિસ્કવરી પર કે એમાં ડોક્યુમેન્ટરીઝમાં જોઈ જશો. ના જોયું તો જોજો. રાઈટ? તો એક નાનું શિપ અહીં છે. These are 2 piloting or guiding small ships which are lifting or dragging this big ship. એકની દોરી આમ બાંધેલી છે, બીજાની દોરી આમ બાંધેલી છે. તો આ કઈ ડાયરેક્શનમાં જશે? How do you know? With which knowledge you could say that it will move in this direction? Because this force P is this, Q is this. With which knowledge you could say that R will be this? This is the use. Only 2 forces. Same vastu, same problem. So there are many cases as an engineer we might have to deal in future that there is a point at which there are multiple forces acting, and you have to calculate that how that point has to be remained stable. So for that you cannot do trial and error. You need to go through this method, find resultant, find alpha, so that you can claim that okay, when these 5 forces are acting, finally this point has this force in this direction with angle alpha. So design this point or material part such that it has to withstand this force. Hello? This is the importance of this knowledge, which is resolution of forces, and why it is required to study as well as why it is required to understand, because we have to use this thing many a times while learning also up to 7 semester, 8 semester, and in practical life also after you become an engineer. एकाद सिंपल प्रॉब्लम करिए नो. ओ 10 જ મિનિટ છે, કઈ નહીં કરી લઈએ સિમ્પલ. સાથે ડ્રો કરતા રહે તો ટાઈમ ઓછો છે. There are five forces: F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. Right? As we have done in the explanation of the concept. Now, what is the first job? Is to calculate all the sine cos components, means all the components in the direction of x. This is x axis, this is y axis. And then to calculate all the components or resolve these forces, resolution is the correct terminology. Resolving all these forces in x direction, resolving all the forces in y direction. X direction will be summation of x, y direction will be summation of y. Okay, summation of x equals to this force. Let us take first force 100, which is intensity, and angle will be 60. So 100 into 100 cos 60, right? This direction. Then next is, this is also 100, making angle 60 with this. This will also be 100 cos 60. 60 is na angle. Okay. Then is this force. This force can be represented here also or here also. It is transmissibility, same. So this will have cos component, which cos 0 is, because it is already in x direction, so no resolution is required, plus 50. Then this force is 130, which will have a cos component 130 cos 67.33, but this is in this direction, so it will be minus 130 cos 67.38 degree, and this will have a cos component. This will be resolved in x direction as 120 cos, which is 0. એટલે આના માટે આપણે cos માં જવાની જરૂર નથી. We know that the force itself is in y direction, so it will not have any x component. Like this force is already in x direction, so it didn't have any y component. So this will be 0. Final answer. કેલ્ક્યુલેટર કાઢો બેગમાં. મેં કાલે કહેલું કે કેલ્ક્યુલેટર લઈને આવવાનું છે આ ક્લાસમાં. નતું કહ્યું કાલે? કાલે કહ્યું તું મેં. પણ તે વિડીયો જોયો એવું કીધું ને, એટલે જોયો ના કહેવાય, એટલે સ્ટાર્ટ. ફાઇનલ આન્સર મને કહો. જલ્દી ગણો, કેટલી વાર? હા, આ કેલ્ક્યુલેટર થોડું ચાલે. મિનિમમ 81 ms 81 es જોઈશે તમને. આ કેલ્ક્યુલેટર નહીં ચાલે પ્રોવિઝન સ્ટોર વાળું, એમાં સાઇન કોસ છે જ નહીં. તો પછી શું વાત કરો છો? 50 પ્લસ 100 cos 100 cos 6 130 cos plus 100. આ કઈક લોચો લાગે છે આમાં. બુકમાં કઈ મિસ્ટેક છે, તમે મને કેલ્ક્યુલેટ કરીને કહો. આ કેટલું આવે છે? 100 cos 60 પ્લસ માઇનસ કેટલું? 130 into 0.16 એટલે કેટલું પડે આન્સર? આવે છે બધાનું આજ? મારી પાસે બુક નથી, અરે આઈ મીન કેલ્ક્યુલેટર નથી. આનો આન્સર 50 છે. 50. આ શું છે? ઓકે 50 આવે છે, ના આવતો જોઈ લેજો. સો આન્સર ઇઝ 100. પતી ગઈ વસ્તુ, ધ્યાન અહીંયા. આન્સર ઇઝ 100. પછી આગળ કશું નહીં, પોઈન્ટ 100 પછી this is how we represent a force. So we represent its magnitude, its unit and its direction. આ મેન્શન ના કરો તો ચાલે, પણ મેન્શન કરવાનો ફાયદો છે કે આપણી જ ભૂલ ના થાય પ્લસ માઇનસમાં, because here it is hidden that in this direction we have taken plus values and in this direction we have taken negative values. So our sign convention, right? Why this negative has come? Because it is in the opposite direction of this. So all the forces in x direction are positive, minus x direction are negative. So our 100 Newton is in positive x direction. Similarly, summation of y, all the forces in y direction. जल्दी बताओ, बताओ जल्दी बोलो. 100 sin 60 प्लस नहीं माइनस 100 sin 60, इसका कुछ नहीं आएगा, प्लस 130 sin 67.38 प्लस 120. ये तो कैंसिल हो गया. કેમ? मैथमेटिक्स के तेल पीवा, ये F5 फोर्स कौन सी डायरेक्शन में है? वाई में, तो वाई में तो आएगा ही। आंसर आंसर ए छोकरे आंसर 240 वैल्यू પછી डायरेक्शन, so you have delta x delta y. Now what is needed? So this is your delta x 100 newtons, this is your delta y 240 newtons. So certainly your r will be in this direction. This is r making angle alpha. What will be alpha? Tan inverse answer alpha answer tan inverse 240 by 100, tan inverse 2.4. આલ્ફા શોધો પણ આર શોધવાનો રહી ગયો, તમે બી કહેતા નથી. આર સ્ક્વેર વિલ બી delta x square plus delta y square implies r is equal to delta x square કેટલું થશે? 100 24 240 નો સ્ક્વેર 57,000 implies r equals to here the problem is completed. Again telling you the significance that doing this procedure, now you can tell that suppose this is some part in your machine or some member at your machine junction at which there are multiple forces being acted. So if these forces are acting with these values and this angle, this particle or material or this portion will finally experience force 260 Newton in the direction this. The final force would be, this is your R, 260 Newton and angle alpha. This will make same effect as these 5 forces are making. Clear? Done for today. See you in next class.